Okay, I will call the Lower Southwick Township Board of Supervisors Reorganization meeting, January 2nd, 2024, to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and one nation. The public comment. None. First item on the agenda is the reorganization of the Board of Supervisors. This time I'll take nomination for the position of chairman for the year 2024.
Mr. Chairman, I would nominate Keith Bergman for the position of chairman for the year 2024.
Second. Any other nomination? There being none. All those in favor of Keith Bergman as chairman of the Board of Supervisors for Lower Southwick Township for 2024, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. All right, moving right along. I'll take nominations for the election of vice president of the Lower South Township Board of Supervisors.
I would nominate Chris Canavan.
I will second.
Moved and seconded. Any other nominations? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Congratulations, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys.
All right. So moving along in the agenda, I would make a motion to approve agenda items number 5 through 22. Inclusively.
Mr. Chairman, I would second that and ask that you amend that to include the name of under 5, solicitor for the UCC Appeals Board, the law offices of Robert L. Grant and Associates, and under 6E, David Spause to the 5-year term on the Lower Southwick Township Authority, neither of which were listed on the agenda.
With that
Do you
addition,
agree to that?
I do agree with that motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Item number 23, motion designated the following. A, the first Wednesday of the month as the regular public meeting of the Board of Supervisors to begin at 7:30 p.m.
Let's stop there and make that motion.
So
I'll
moved
second the motion.
and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. That motion carries. B, a public work session the day prior to the board meeting at 7:30 a.m. in addition to the third Wednesday of the month at 7:30 a.m., excluding the months of July and August, third Wednesday's meetings.
I would make that motion.
Second that.
Moved in second.
Ask for some discussion.
Sure.
As you all know, I bring it up every year, but again, you take any kind of public meeting, whether it's scouts, the volunteer organizations, spirits, most of them are expected to kind of take place later in the afternoon or the evening. Once again, I gave you all 38 townships in Montgomery County. The earliest start time for elected officials' public meeting is ours at 7:30 a.m. There's 1 at 6 p.m., 2 at 6:30 p.m. 27 at 7 p.m., 7 at 7:30 p.m. I think we can reach more people in the township. People can schedule things easier if we consider having our meetings also in the evening instead of at 7:30 in the morning, when a lot of our residents really cannot.
Appreciate that, Kevin, and I'll repeat probably what I've said before, which is I appreciate the opportunity to have both a 7:30 a.m. opportunity for people to have comment and contact with us and a 7:30 p.m. because we meet at different times throughout the month. So that there's an opportunity for people, they work different schedules, have different childcare needs, et cetera, to reach out to the board. I would make the caveat, and I think we discussed it at the last meeting, I think you had a good idea on that. I think we should add an opportunity for public discussion on every one of our agendas, which we currently don't have on our work sessions, so that does not look like it's preventing people from joining us at our morning meeting to have that opportunity. And I think that would be a good way to, again, further expand the opportunity for public feedback and public comment.
And also we do have the Zoom meetings now, so I think people have a lot better access to it at all times. So I think if they really need to speak to us, they can, you know. I don't know if that would get it.
Yeah, and for me, it would actually present more to have another 7:30 p.m. meeting. So for me, it would be a challenge to make another 7:30 p.m.
But I think it's interesting for the same reason that you mentioned about scouts and other activities. Many of us on this board, including yourself, are very active in other activities within the community. So we're able to do those activities, this position, well, because we have a diversity of times for the meetings.
No, I appreciate that. And again, I do think the morning meetings honestly are probably easier for me due to those schedules, but I think for the 16,000 that we're representing, they're already fine. That's my take. I do appreciate the idea of Zoom, but on that note, could we also discuss, this might be another time, the possibility of enacting Zoom participation for all meetings that we have? Currently, even in our bulletins and all, it says public discussion is only allowed in person, not on Zoom. When we discussed this in the past, we discussed the idea of allowing chairman of such committee to make that enactment. Our last meeting, it worked out well for our chairman who, was able to participate on Zoom. I think in this day and age, we shouldn't say no. But again, that could be a different discussion, but I think that's something that we could do right now as well. But in regards to that, I appreciate the discussion.
All right, so we have a moved and seconded motion for 23B. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay.
Hey,
Motion carries. All right, moving on. Item 24, announcement that monthly meetings of the township advisory boards and committees for the year 2024 will be held in person at the Township Building, 379 Main Street, Harleysville, PA, as listed. I'm not going to read them all.
Are any of them different
Any of them different.
from one? From past
Prior
prior
year.
Yes, okay.
Thanks, Jim. We would, yeah, that would be good to announce, but I think they're all the same.
I will note that I do know that that's a 7 a.m. meeting for the sewer authority, but I don't feel as strongly in regards to the board of supervisors, and I want to make that clear.
All right, so that's just an announcement. There's no action to be taken there. 25 is also an announcement that the non-uniform employee holidays for 2024 are as follows: New Year's Day, Martin Luther King Day, President's Day, Memorial Day, Independence Day, Labor Day, Election Day, Thanksgiving Day, the day after Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve Day, Christmas Day.
And Christmas Eve is after 12.
After.
a half day.
It's a half day, sorry, got a little carried away there. Birthday and 7 personal days, which include 3 days for the death of a family member. These holidays are a collective bargaining agreement, which is separate. All right, moving on. Number 26 is the consent agenda item. Do I have a motion to approve those items?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Committee reports, Park Board.
The next park board meeting will be in this room. We'll be reorganizing for 2024. And that meeting will be on the 23rd of January at 7 p.m.
We also have our stakeholders meeting coming up.
We do. On January 16th, we will be having a stakeholders meeting in this room for the sporting organizations to discuss field usage, new guidelines going forward. And I have already heard from everyone that they will have a representative here.
Awesome. Excellent. Very good. Zoning Hearing Board, Michael,
There are no applications.
right? Fire Chief, did we get a report?
I do not believe we did.
Okay. Well, when we do get one, we'll keep it in view for the public to the extent they would like to see it. Freedom Valley Medical Rescue, presume that is the same.
That's correct.
Recreation Authority, we did meet middle of December regarding the golf course. It did very well this year. We adopted the budget for next year and we are hoping for the same. Communications Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We also plan on reorganizing at our next meeting, which will be here and on Zoom at 7:30 on, my apologies here, January 17th. We are also finalizing our volume 2, our resident request for, or resident, a resident brochure, which gives you vast stats, your resources that you have, all that, making sure that all the contacts are up to date and everybody, all the same phone numbers and emails are there. Looking forward to that.
Some of those are sports organizations, so will we make sure that somebody gets the appoint people for those.
Our committee split it up amongst each other to already check in and report back at our last meeting,
Thanks.
so thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could tend to fluctuate.
All right, very good. Moving right along, 28 is old business, resolution 2024-01, the Tuttle subdivision 785 Pressman Road preliminary final subdivision approval. This is where we, if we're ready to go, but they have no representative.
Expect the applicant to be here tonight, especially since he was here at last month's meeting.
Yeah.
It was cool. Be here. But you reviewed it last month, if you're willing to.
Yeah, I mean,
I've got a couple questions, Michelle. One thing I wanted to question was, I know you mentioned removing some of the sight lines for the trees for sightline distances.
Mhm.
And I wonder if you think that that's a concern or where we.
Because they have to conform to that ordinance, so if there are any brush or trees that have to be removed, we'll make sure that they get that done.
And that would be you discussing whether they're not your typical
Yeah.
tree, so I appreciate that. The only other question I had, which was brought up at the planning commission meeting, was a question regarding access for fire ladder trucks getting in there. And I know the representative, Matt, said that he will take a look at that and he thinks it's reasonable. I just wanted to know if there's any follow-up.
There hasn't been any follow-up because they haven't submitted revised plans yet. But once again, they will have to make any adjustments to conform to that section of the ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Was there any other changes that weren't aware of, or?
There hasn't been any revised plans submitted, so it's the same plans that you got last month.
And there's the applicant's response to your letter, which is dated to your previous letter. I can read it as well, so thank you. See the applicant. They were the main concerns I had, if you feel confident on them.
all right, I'd make a motion to approve resolution 2024-01, granting preliminary and final subdivision approval to the Tuttle subdivision, which is a 3-lot subdivision off Pressman Road.
Second. Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Joe, you'll let them know, I guess. All right, moving on, new business, resolution 2024-02, amending and reestablishing the fee schedule for certain services rendered by Lower Southford Township. This is gonna become an annual resolution that we update those needs as necessary. Any questions?
Make a
Do I have
motion,
a motion?
make a motion to approve resolution 2024-02, establishing the fee schedule for this year.
Second. Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Next up, item B, resolution 2024-03, setting the police department contribution to the pension fund.
Chairman, I make a motion to approve 2024-03, setting the contribution to the pension fund as we do every year. And it's set at 4%.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right, moving right along. 29C ordinance number 2024-01. RO Residential Office District Amendments Authorization to Advertise, some changes to that zoning ordinance.
Chairman, I make a motion to authorize the advertisement of the ordinance for a hearing at a future date. Let's put the date specific on that.
Will be for the next.
For the February. Get that correct. That would be the February
February something or other.
Second.
February 7th Board of Supervisors.
Motion, second.
Can we
Moved in-
have some discussion, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
I know it's for a motion to advertise, but I'd like to have some discussion, particularly for the sake of our supervisor. Proud. In 2019, the same applicant and engineer proposed a different zoning ordinance text amendment. That proposed amendment was related regulations for signs in the commercial, mixed use and residential office districts. Although the text amendment was meant to accommodate the signs for the sites of the then proposed Wawa and Taco Bell, which were both located within the mixed use, the amendment also included 2 other districts, commercial and RO, which is the district that the site before us today is located within. The County Planning Commission couldn't justify why those two other districts were included and warned the board that this amendment would alter the permitted signage along Town Pike along the Harleysville corridor where these three zoning districts, RO, MU, and C, are predominantly located. They also recommended that the township carefully consider how altering the permitted signage type and size may impact other areas in these zoning districts as well as the surrounding neighborhoods within the township. Despite the warnings, the board passed the amendment in December 2020 with a vote of 4-1. In May of this year, the applicant and engineer submitted a conditional use application to the township proposing apartment units, a store, and a bank. In a response letter from our Director of Building and Zoning, the following comments were given. A bank is not permitted in the RO district. A variance is required from the zoning hearing board in order to allow the proposed bank. The new ordinance in front of you all literally reads, as you can see, to permit banks, savings and loans associations, and credit unions as a class 3 conditional use. Permit banks to permit banks. If I were the applicant and engineer, why try to prove a hardship to the zoning hearing board if this board has a history of amending our zoning ordinance for the benefit of developers? From their perspective, I don't blame them. Since I've joined this board, there have been numerous requests from developers to amend our zoning ordinance for their benefit. March 2020, December 2020, as previously mentioned, May 2022, and 2 more in October 2022. All 5 times passed with me as the sole nay vote. How can you blame them for trying? We can reset developer expectations by voting no now to even advertising this amendment. For what it's worth, I will repeat what I have previously said to the board before these votes, and I hope I don't have to say it again. I ask my colleagues to please consider not approving this amendment and instead use this as an opportunity to hire a consultant to recodify our zoning ordinances, or at the least form an ad hoc committee. It is a heavy lift to recodify the zoning ordinance, but it will pay off in dividends. It will not only drive development, but also the quality of life in Lower Southbridge, transportation directives for the future, as well as codify design and architectural standards and the ways landowners can manage their properties, homes, and businesses. While hiring a consultant may be expensive to do the work, it gives landowners the opportunities to participate in the process and will bring a level of transparency to the township government that all citizens of Lower Southbridge will appreciate. I know we are just advertising, but again, I urge you to consider that. We could stop that now. That's my take on it.
What is your concern about having a bank in there?
It's not so much the concern that I would have a bank there. It's so much that, again, you went through, there's a procedure that we have. So instead of going to the zoning hearing board, why not just try to put an amendment on our code? It's been done before. Again, from their perspective, I see that. But you might think, okay, it worked before, try it again. But where do we draw the line? Is my question, Supervisor. Here comes another person. Here comes another person. I know we've had various discussions for various things. I've mentioned it before. But I feel that if I've heard before, we need to update our zoning order. Let's update our zone. Let's make sure we can do it in a way that's not biased, or it doesn't seem biased, whereas, this person came in and wants to suggest this. And that's my take. And, the previous one, when we did do that zoning one, there's 2 that, or not that 2, but the signing one literally had two other districts that were not in the same as the Taco Bell, but the design plan was for the designs for the Taco Bell and the Wawa. I just feel that we should draw the line. Where do we draw the line? We've had, it is kind of related to this, so I will mention it if you please. We've had other developers come in here with waivers that have said similar to the waiver you gave this property, whereas each property, each parcel is unique in its own way. And they shouldn't have that expectancy to say, well, this is what you do in Lower Southbridge, so this is why I want all these waiver requests, or this is what you do, so let's just rezone it. That's
A
my
waiver is very different.
A waiver is
than changing the zoning.
a waiver is
A
different.
waiver is the
It's a-
subdivision and land development ordinance, which at our purview, we are able to provide waivers.
And we can take that line out of what I had said as altogether. I was using as an example of having an expectancy based on the past, and they are separate.
I see what you're saying, but and the only thing I'd say from your comments, our ordinances are codified. We're not changing the codification. I think what you're talking about is updating the zoning ordinances. The codification's already occurred. That's the form that they're in. The fact of the matter is we are going through and updating our zoning ordinance, and we are using an outside consultant. It's the Montgomery County Planning Commission. They're under contract with us to go through and do that, and they're going through on these items. I think we do get some individual items that come through that, at least to me, make sense. When I look at the RO zoning district and you look at the enabling legislation, the biggest question I have is why weren't banks allowed in there to begin with? Because that's probably one of the most innocuous uses that could go in there compared to many of the allowable uses that are under that. And from my standpoint, we've seen proposals within the RO for an auto zone, for some other uses that I don't think are quite as attractive as a bank. banks are pretty low. So I look at it on a case-by-case basis, and if it makes sense, I'm willing to support it. If it doesn't, we move on and we don't support it. This one seems to make sense to me. That's the way I look at it from this particular application. I understand your concern overall, and we are attempting to address the modernization of our zoning. Part of the problem and why we do get a certain number of text amendments, in my opinion, is it's been a very long time since we've updated our zoning ordinances. And because of the length of time, there are a number of things that end up being in conflict with each other in the zoning ordinance. And that's the process I think the planning commission is going through with the county to update them on a zoning district by zoning district basis so that we have consistency and a better flow within our zoning.
You know, I agree with you, it's a long time, which is why I've been saying it, as I said, since 2020. I think in regards to the county planning commission. Yes, but you can have, which ones are we choosing? We're still picking, like, perhaps we take a list. Okay, we need to update our thing. Here's a recommendation. This one pointed it out. We'll add it to our list. You know, it'd be different if we went into it as a whole on behalf of the township, as opposed to case by case. That's what we have our zoning hearings. You know, we have a copy of it right here. That Mike's letter back. Pass that around as well. And it says, this one is still for the.
The issue with that is, and I would argue the zoning hearing board has rightfully said to us, why is this coming to us? This is a legislative matter for the board. If this is good for this property, why wouldn't it be good for the district? And I think that we have followed through on that and looked at it from a text amendment standpoint. If we fail to adopt this, they still have the right to avail themselves of that on a one-off basis.
Again, I can't speak for what happened in 2019 as I wasn't in this capacity on the board. I just sat out there. When I came in 2020, you know, there was the proposal to rezone 2. I don't know if that came to the same thing. What was the trigger to say, let's rezone 3 of our signs there? The trigger that I understood was the blueprints for the sizes that were 25% bigger or 12% bigger grading it. And that's my take on it, gentlemen. I really do hope that you consider it. I think we can draw the line here. We can go about this another way. We can have other discussions, but I just don't think we should be doing this when we should pick and choose. I think I've made my case. Just don't want to keep repeating. So I do hope you consider that though.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, do we have a motion to authorize to advertise? Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, say nay.
Okay.
Ayes have it. Which brings us to our second discussion period of the evening. Is there anyone wishing to be recognized? Hearing none, we will pass it on to adjourn. Do we have a need for executive session?
Yes.
Matter of real.
Matter of real estate. Very good. Mr. Garrity?
We adjourn.
So moved and so ordered.
Thank you.
Hi, how are you? I was thinking that might be you. Congratulations on your appointment.